Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about Assassin's Apprentice, which is a 1995 book from Robin Hobb and is probably one of the most polarizing books that I've read. And I mean polarizing in the sense that I really want to love the book, um, but unfortunately I can't. So let's talk about that. Why I love the book. So there's going to be a number of other books that I look at that are about fantasy books about assassins, people who engage in intrigue. Um, they're responsible for, well, essentially eliminating the king's enemies. And the training and development of an assassin is a topic that tends to be fairly interesting. When you read The Black Company, the narrator talks about, well, I wonder what makes, a toddler or a child and, who tend to be very happy and cheerful and innocent into a silent or a jolly, which are two of the less pleasant characters in the Black Company. And most of the Assassins books that we read kind of answer that question. How does a child end up in a situation where they're trained as an assassin? And what does it do to them mentally? What kind of mental changes do they have to go through to get to become an assassin? And I think Robin Hobb really handles that transformation really, really well, talking about, um, the skills that are needed, the learning that needs to be done, but then also the mental ability to engage in assassination and intrigue on the behalf of your king and kingdom. So that's good. The main character, who's only doesn't really get a name, he's just called the Fitz. He's the illegitimate child of the crown prince who stepped down after cheating on his wife and fathering an illegitimate child, um, is dropped off at the castle when he's barely old enough to walk and is taken to the stables where he's apprenticed to the stable master. And the stable master is, the stable master is a very interesting character. On the one hand, he serves as a father figure to the child, and helps raise him. But on the other hand, he's, let's just say, not the most emotionally accessible person in the world. So there's a very interesting dynamic there. Um, there's Chade, who's the half brother of the king, and another bastard who's the royal assassin who trains the Fitz in the arts of assassination. And the stories of the training are interesting, and the various and sundry things that happen in the training. They're good. They're interesting to read. You definitely want to hear more about it. Um, and then you've got the Fitz, who's a child who's really molded into being a servant of the kingdom. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. You don't want bastards who have potential claims on the throne to be running around loose. So they're brought in and made to serve the king in, shall we say, secretive ways. So the king can keep an eye on them. He ensures loyalty to the throne. He ensures that there's continuity and you don't have cadet branches that are, engaging in their own intrigue to try and capture the throne, or they can't be, or nor can they be used by the nobles for their own aspirations. So that whole part of the story is really fun. Watching the Fitz grow up, watching him learn, and seeing the changes that he goes through to become the man that he does. Great. So that's the good part. The bad part is, well, I mean, put it simply as possible, the author pretty much unrelentingly shits on the main character. Um, he and Shade, obviously getting to the point where you become an assassin who's comfortable with killing people involves a lot of mental change, and sometimes the character does not like the mental change involved, which causes constant conflict with Shade. Not surprising. Um, and then the character and Burridge have a very difficult relationship because the Fitz is skilled in a kind of animal magic, which Burridge is also skilled in, but it tends to make the practitioners more bestial. So Burridge is trying to continually prevent him from using this magic that he has access to, and that causes a lot of tension, which runs through this, father-son relationship they have. And then the third problem is the crown prince, who's the eldest, named Regal, and he's the eldest son of the king's second wife. So the second queen is constantly maneuvering to elevate her son and push aside the two sons of the first wife. And the second son is, well, let's put it simply, he's going to make a horrible king. So, there's this thread going through the whole story that the kingdom is going to have problems once the current king dies, when Regal takes over, because he's completely unqualified to be king. And there are a number of external threats to the kingdom, which Regal is completely unprepared to deal with. He also hates the Fitz as a illegitimate offspring of one of the um, king's first wife's sons. He's a threat to Regal's claim to the throne, and Regal can't outright eliminate him, but he does everything within his power to make the Fitz's life miserable. And as the crown prince, there's a lot that he can do. And if it was just one of those things, you could occasionally have a break where, okay, we've dealt with one of these problems, or this thing is happening and we're in the process of dealing with this thing, and we're making progress. But the author, and I had read an interview with her where she says, well, there's really no point in having things go well for the main character. Why write about a life that's sweetness and happiness and so forth? You always have to you know pile challenges on to make the main character, to drive the story and make the main character interesting. And philosophically, I get it. Having conflict and challenges does drive the story. But when there's, three overlapping challenges that tend to flare up at different times, then it's just this constant, the character's trying to accomplish something. He deals with one challenge, or he kind of puts one of the phases of his life in order. And the second phase of his life, which is now kind of a minor thing, now comes up and it's a huge problem. And I think if the author had taken the foot off the pedal for a while and just let the character have a couple days where they could enjoy their life and things are going well, then I think this would be a great story. It's too unrelentingly depressing for me, and it's not fun to read. You're reading the story. You've got this character that you really like. You feel invested in him. Um, they've got challenges, but they're overcoming them. They've got people on their side. There's people opposed to them. There's external challenges in the kingdom that as they get older, they get drafted into dealing with, and that's great. But it's just constantly unrelenting depression. It's like, I can't read this. I've probably read 8 or 9 of Robin Hobb's books, 2 or 3 of the trilogies, which are all set in roughly the same world, and they're all the same. So clearly, I really, really want to like the books, but they're not books that I can go back to because it's just too emotionally draining to read them. So, should you read the book? Do I recommend it? I do recommend it, but just be aware that you're getting into a book that's going to be very, very difficult to read. And if you're prepared for that, they are really good stories that are really well written. They've got good plot. The plot advances well. The characters are interesting, believable, and likable. But it's just going to be, 400 pages of just unrelenting conflict and the main character getting shit on. So if you don't like that, don't read it. Otherwise, strong recommendation. Once again, thank you for listening this far, and I will talk to you later.